Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist and I own 52 units of real estate. So today I want to talk about my emergency reserve funds and how I kind of structure them out and where I put my money for my emergency reserves and how I'm planning on doing it once I pay out my primary residence. So a lot of topics to go over today. So obviously my first source of emergency reserve fund is going to be my high yield savings account. So I use Ally Bank. And for me, my comfort zone is about $100,000 to $150,000 in reserve in my cash in my bank account. And I don't have a rhyme or reason why it's $100,000 to $150,000, but that's just my comfort level. And it's more of an emotional thing, I would say. And right now I'm hovering, less than 100,000. So that's why I feel a little bit uneasy. And I'm trying to rebuild that back up to, closer to $100,000. So in case, a roof breaks, I have $30,000 to repair that. If there's a major plumbing issue, I can cover that and I don't have to worry or sweat about that. So my first emergency reserve is obviously just cash in my high yield savings account. And, the high yield savings account is earning about, 4 to 5% on your money. So it's not bad, but this is just the quick cash so that you can survive a rainy day. Maybe you lose your job. You need to repair a roof and you get hit with, you have to pay your mortgage and you have kids. I don't know, whatever that is. But for me, it's $100,000 at least. No rhyme or reason. That's just my personal comfort level. And it's probably going to go up whenever I have, kids in a family, because I want to have that cushion. So my second source of emergency reserve are my index funds in my brokerage account. So my index funds in my brokerage account, I think I'm about $500,000, give or take, in index funds brokerage account. And I mostly have it through Vanguard. But what I do is I actually transfer them over to Charles Schwab because I can do something called a pledged asset line of credit on that so that I could leverage my stocks without selling them to use as an emergency reserve, because I would hate to have to sell my stocks if the stock market's doing bad, or my index funds when the market's doing bad. So instead, I'd rather take a line of credit against that. And the interest rates are, they're kind of averaging what the market averages. So it's about like maybe 6 to 7% on your money, but at least you're not forced to sell, and then you can leverage that money for emergency reserve, right? So the way I view it is my first line of defense is going to be my high yield savings account, which is going to be around $100,000. My second line of defense is I'm going to look to see, okay, can I use my pledge asset line of credit through Charles Schwab, where my index fund portfolio is, to basically, I'm not forced to sell these stocks so they can continue compounding, but instead I can borrow against that, hopefully at a reasonable interest rate, to then cover that emergency expense, and then have that real estate cover that line of credit, which becomes a tax write-off. So that's my preferred option. But as a third case scenario, if interest rates, let's say, are horrible for some reason, then obviously I'm going to have to sell some of my index funds to cover that expense, right? So this is my largest bucket of emergency reserve fund. I hope to never use it. I view this money as non-existent to me, even though I do have like $500,000 in there. But in my mind, I view it as nothing. That's why I always think I'm poorer than I am, right? For better or for worse. Another source for emergency reserve fund are my max funded universal life insurance policies. So I have two policies that I max fund, or not currently max funding, but I used to max fund. I have my index universal life policy through Transamerica and my variable universal life policy through Nationwide. So what's nice about this is you do dump your money in there. They do charge fees, right? And a lot of fees, and it does grow tax-free. You could pull out tax-free through a loan. So if I needed it, I could actually borrow against my index universal life policy or my variable universal life policy, and once again leverage that. So let's just say I have $100,000 of cash value in my whole life policy. I can maybe borrow 70% of that, 70,000, as a line of credit, and then they're going to charge me interest rate on that, right? Or another option is I just can take a loan on my own policy, but once you take the money out of the policy, that money is no longer compounding, if that makes sense. So if I have $100,000 cash value and I take out $50,000 for emergency real estate repair, then only $50,000 that's of the cash value is compounding, right? So if you're actually taking a loan on your policy, the amount you take out doesn't compound anymore, right? But if you actually borrow against, if you like use another line of credit through another company to borrow against your cash value, then your 100,000 is untouched, still compounding, but then now you have to pay this line of credit over here. So those are the two options, right? And there are a lot of lenders where I think it's a cash value line of credit, a CV lock. So it's a cash value line of credit where they actually can aggregate all your whole life insurance policies, and then you just can borrow against that to leverage that to pay off emergency reserve, right? Or I just can take a loan in my actual cash value bucket to cover that emergency expense, right? So that's another source of emergency reserve, and it's maybe around $200,000. Another source of emergency reserve is obviously my 401k, right? So 401k, you could take a loan against it, right? Or you could do an early withdrawal, but you're gonna get penalized, right? You pay a penalty fee plus like you're gonna pay ordinary tax on that. So I think the penalty fee is about 10-20%, something like that, and then you have to then pay your ordinary income tax on that. So that's another line of defense that I have. So those are kind of my different, as you can see, emergency reserve funds. That's more liquid, right? So my step one would be, to summarize, high yield savings account through Ally Bank. Step two is a line of credit against my index funds. Step three would be my index funds if I had to sell. Step four would be my line of credit against my life insurance policies. Step five would be just withdrawing from my life insurance policy cash value. Step six would be withdrawing from my 401k, right? So these are my options. And then another option, which I plan on doing, so eventually I do want to pay off my primary residence here, which it's going to be actually not that bad of a financial decision because I have a 6.5% interest rate on this property right now, unless interest rates drop and I refinance. But in any case, like I have a $5,500 a month mortgage on this property, so my goal is I want to sell one of my properties when interest rates are lower so that I can pay off the primary residence here, right? And then once this is paid off, it'll wipe out a huge expense. But now this is just sitting, bunch of money just sitting in this property, and it's not great for asset protection. So what I would do is I would actually get a line of credit on this property. So let's just say it's worth $900,000 and then it's paid off. I have a $900,000 line of credit, not all of it, but maybe like 80% or 70% of that. So let's just make the numbers easier. Let's say it's worth $1 million, and then I can pull out $700,000 as a line of credit for emergency reserve. Like if I want to buy a piece of real estate that I'm gonna, do a quick fix and flip, or I just need money for renovations to do a BRRRR, or if I want to lend out money, it's also a form of asset protection where you can strip equity out of your property in case something happens. So that's what I plan on doing. I probably want to pay off this house, but then I'm gonna get a line of credit on that so that I can use that for emergency reserve if I want to strike and buy a good real estate deal and I need a lot of cash, right? Like it's not bad to hey, because a lot of the apartments that I'm looking to buy in Oklahoma, they're under about $700,000. So if I just want to quickly just boom, lump sum, buy it cash, quick close, easy negotiations, right? And basically the rent from that property can then cover my payment here, hopefully, and I'll cover the rest, and then I can renovate the property, and then I can do the BRRRR and get a different loan on that, get the money out, and then pay off this property again. Right? So, it's a good source of money that I have and something I want to do. So that's probably going to be another way I access money. And another thing is you can get a lot of personal line of credits too. So I had one through SoFi, but I maxed it out. So that's another way to get maybe $100,000. And if you own a business account like me, I own my business, account, which holds all my real estate and all my business expenses. Eventually I can get a line of credit against that too. Right? So it's another way. And then you also have credit cards, not ideal, but you could do credit cards. There's 0% interest credit cards for maybe a couple, months, maybe 6 to 12 months. And then it gives you enough time to do what you need to do, hopefully. And then before you get that 20% interest. So this is the way I kind of structure myself to have an emergency reserve to own real estate, because to make money from real estate, you have to own it long-term and not be forced to sell at a loss. Right, for me, I sold my mobile home park for a loss, but it was by choice because it was just too stressful. And then, I saw it as a dead end, so I didn't want to do it anymore. So I just sold it, took $100,000 loss, and then, got a nice tax write-off for that year due to that loss. So, for me, it's kind of weird. Even though I listed all those emergency reserve options, I view how rich or poor I am based on how much money I have in my bank account. And if I don't have $100,000 in my bank account, I feel poor. Like, I don't know why that is. Maybe it's a limiting belief, but like that's why I feel poor, because I'm not $100,000 in that account, even though I'm like investing a lot of money elsewhere and have access to a lot of money elsewhere. So anyways, hopefully you found this video valuable. Hopefully it gave you insight as to the emergency reserves that I have to cover my 52 unit real estate portfolio, and kind of the ways I would access my emergency reserves if needed, right? So when I was doing my mobile home park, I did have to access my line of credit on my index funds, and I pulled out a decent amount, almost like $50,000. And I did max out my personal line of credit as well. So it was getting kind of stressful for me. And so yeah, that's just kind of how I do it. So let me know if you have any comments or questions. Love to hear your input. If you want to buy multifamily real estate for some mentorship or guidance, check out my mentorship program. If you want to join a community of real estate multifamily investors, check out my school community, which I just created. Links are both down below. Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe, and hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much.